Rain lashed the craggy hills on the edge of Thistlewood as Lira scrambled beneath a gnarled willow, clutching her sodden satchel. The wind howled like something hungry, and she shoved tangled hair from her eyes. She'd only come to map the old paths, to chart wild lands for coin. Instead, she'd found something impossible. Roots twisted deeper into the muck, clutching a strange silver gleam. Lyra's heart thudded as she scraped cold mud away. There, nestled among the roots, lay a folded map of shimmering metal. She reached out, fingertips trembling. As she touched it, the silver flared, and words traced themselves across its surface. "Follow where I lead, and your destiny will be rewritten." "Show yourself!" Lira spun. Torches bobbed through the mist. Figures clad in tattered cloaks, faces masked with bone-white paint. They were hunting her. She stuffed the silver map inside her jacket and spun to run as fast as her boots would carry her. "Please!" whispered a voice at her ear, light as willow down. It came not from above, but from the map itself. "Keep me safe." She dashed over tree roots, splashing through a hidden brook, breathing harder with every footstep until a sudden crash sent her sprawling. She landed in the arms of a battered knight with a broken shield carrying the crest of a fallen kingdom. "Easy now, lass," the knight grunted, helping her upright. His mismatched eyes, one blue, one green, studied her sharply. "You running from those charm-cursed bone hunters? Or after 'em?" Lira gasped. "They want this," she whispered, pulling the silver map just enough for him to see a glimmer. It speaks. It led me here." He drew his sword, standing protectively in front of her. "Whatever that is, it'll bring all sorts of trouble. Name's Garen, and you?" "Lira, I'm just a mapmaker." Garen looked at the map, then at the frightened girl. "Not anymore. Stick close." As shadows closed in around them, the silver map flickered urgently, revealing a new line. "Seek the laughing river, where moonlight breaks." Before Lira could ask what it meant, a peal of wicked laughter rang out behind them. A tiny figure with dragonfly wings hovering above the brook, dark eyes twinkling. "Oh, this is going to be fun," the Fae chimed. "If you want to survive, you'd best listen to me." Lightning forked through the sky above Thistlewood as the trio plunged into the wild, destiny chasing at their heels, and the first riddle leading them on. The tangled forest pressed close as Lira, Garen, and their mischievous Fae guide fled deeper into the night. The bone hunters' shouts grew distant, but every snapping twig sent Lyra's heart thumping anew. They stopped amid ancient stones carved with unreadable runes. The rain had eased, leaving the midnight air heavy and wet. The Fae hovered cross-legged midair, grinning as she wrung water from her wild violet hair. "You're awfully chipper for someone being chased," Garen grumbled. "I thrive on chaos, Knight," she replied, barely hiding her delight. "Call me Pip." Lira fished the silver map from her coat. It shimmered, displaying a faint river winding through moonlit woods. Words pulsed on its surface. "Seek the laughing river, where moonlight breaks." What does it mean? Pip tapped her chin with a tiny pointed finger. "The laughing river only appears at midnight after a storm, and only if you're looking for heartbreak." Garen snorted. "We're fresh out of heartbreak." "Speak for yourself," Pip shot back, her eyes glinting. She flitted closer to Lira. "Why did it choose you?" Lira hesitated. She remembered the map's gentle plea. "Keep me safe." "I don't know. I've never done anything special. I just want to chart the world, not change it." "You want more than most folk," Garen said softly. "That can make you special." Thunder rumbled far off. Lira traced the moonlit river on the map. As the clouds parted overhead, moonlight shimmered through the trees and a silvery stream materialized, carving its way between moss and stone. "There!" she cried, running to its banks. The water gurgled and giggled, the current sparkling as if bubbles were laughing. Lira crouched down, watching moonlight fracture on its ripples. Suddenly a riddle rose from the current, soft and cold as mist. "To find the mirror, your path's begun. Seek not the dawn, but where you run. Face your fear 'neath silver beams, trust strangers met in tangled dreams." They glanced at one another, wary, exhausted, but bound by something fragile. Courage or fate? Garen rested a reassuring hand on Lyra's shoulder. "Well, Mapmaker, looks like we trust each other now." Pip buzzed in closer, wings flickering mischievously. "And you trust me too, right?" Lira nodded, voice steady. "We don't have a choice." Above them, the bone hunters' torches danced once more, closer now. The silver map pulsed urgently, and Lyra's resolve hardened. "It's not just a map," she whispered. "It's a promise. Let's go." Together they plunged into the labyrinth of moonlit woods, shadows in pursuit, and a path only they could see. The forest shifted underfoot with every step, roots twisting into ladders, branches arching overhead like tangled fingers. Lira's boots caught on mossy rocks as she struggled to keep up with Pip, whose wings flashed in the moonlight. Garen trailed behind, sword drawn and eyes sweeping the shadows for any sign of the bone hunters. They pressed deeper along the riverbank, following the silent guidance of the silver map. Each time Lira glanced at it, new paths flickered into view, then vanished, always out of reach if looked at too long. Suddenly, the laughter of the brook faded, replaced by a low, mournful howl. The woods grew colder. Pip halted midair, tiny shoulders tense. "We're near the Veiled Crossing," she whispered. "It's not a place for mortals or fae." Garen's grip tightened on his battered shield. "Doesn't seem we have a choice." A dense mist leaked from the trees, swallowing their shapes and scattering Lira's thoughts until only her heartbeat anchored her. The map's surface fogged, then revealed a single word: trust. A flicker ahead, a spectral figure blocking the path, face hidden beneath a hood of woven leaves. Its voice drifted on the mist. "To cross, one must offer what they fear to lose most. What will you give, wayfarers?" Lira stepped forward first, jaw clenched as she fished inside her satchel and withdrew her compass, the only thing left from home. Her voice shook with memory. "This guides me when I can't see my way. But if I take every path the map shows, I'll lose who I am." The figure's leafy hand hesitated, then accepted the compass. The mist thinned slightly. Garen's turn. He slipped off a tarnished ring, battered, but once regal. "The symbol of the kingdom I failed to save. I'm more than this regret." With a grunt, he surrendered it. The mist peeled back, revealing a stretch of lantern-lit river. Pip hovered, a rare stillness in her wings. She pulled a blue petal from her tangled hair, the last piece left from her lost home in the dreaming glade. With a sad smile, she let it fall into the spirit's hand. "I fear forgetting where I came from most." The spectral guardian bowed, and the mist dissolved, unveiling a narrow bridge of woven vines stretching over the swirling river. "Keep moving," Lira whispered, still feeling the weight of what she'd surrendered. But already she sensed something new, a boldness she'd never felt before. They crossed side by side, bound not only by their quest but by the things they'd left behind. Behind them, the howls of the bone hunters grew frustrated, unable to follow where only the brave, those who dared to trust, could go. The vine bridge trembled but held, swaying gently as Lira, Garen, and Pip crossed, bathed in moonlight. Once across, the woods gave way to a wide, tangled marsh, lit by floating will-o'-the-wisps. The silver map's glow dimmed, its surface now etched with 3 luminous points: the crescent stone, the roots that wander, the forgotten gate. Lira brushed mud from her hands. 3 places, 3 riddles? Pip spun in the air, watching the lights drift. Each guards part of the mirror's path. The crescent stone's closest, a rock shaped by moon dreams. Garen grumbled. "Riddles, marshes, and spirits. Not exactly what I pictured when you said adventure." Pip cackled. "You could have stayed home, knight." But Garen only grinned wryly. "And miss my daily brush with doom?" Lira led the way, clutching the map. The marsh sucked at her boots and cold fog clung to her skin. Rustlings echoed from every reed bank. Sometimes silent shapes watched with gold lantern eyes. They reached a humped rise. At its peak, cradled by roots, stood a half-moon stone glowing silver white. The instant Lira neared it, a soft wind circled them, and words bloomed on the stone, moonwriting, crisp and shimmering. "A shadow walks with every step, a truth you hide, a secret kept. To claim the shard that fate once spun, speak aloud what you have never done." The silence drew out. Pip hovered, chewing her thumbnail. Garen looked at the sky. But Lira squared her shoulders. "I've never forgiven myself for letting my brother disappear into the wild. I always wondered if I could have saved him." The stone pulsed, and a sliver detached. A piece of shining crystal folded itself into the map, making it brighter. Garen cleared his throat. "I've never admitted to anyone that I'm scared my name means nothing now. Another shard, brighter still." Pip hesitated, but her voice was fierce. "I've never told the Fae I wish I could be human, just for one day." The last shard locked into the map. The wind faded, and moonlight pooled at Lira's feet, pointing toward a copse where massive walking trees lumbered through shifting ground. From the edge of the marsh, a low, menacing chant rose. The bone hunters had found the bridge. Lira whispered, "We have to hurry." Garen nodded, the old ring now gone, but his grip on his sword steadier. Pip darted ahead, her laughter a brittle promise. Behind them, the bone hunters crashed through the marsh after their trail, but before them, the walking roots beckoned, and the legend of Verdania called them ever onward. They hurried toward the groaning woods where walking trees, roots that wander, drifted across boggy ground like dancers lost in a trance. The trees' bark glimmered faintly, mottled with ancient glyphs, and their roots moved with purpose, opening and closing strange, vine-choked paths. Lyra's palms sweated as she said, "How do we get through?" Pip zipped overhead, dodging a swinging branch. "Roots listen to stories. They'll open if you tell a true tale, but a lie? Well, you'll be tangled up for days." Garen grunted. "I'll take truth over boredom any day." With a shaky breath, Lira approached one of the ancient trees whose roots curled protectively over the path. Its hollow widened, revealing a dark, listening heart. The group gathered close. Lira began. "My name is Lira. I used to believe I was too afraid to change the world, so I avoided risks. But tonight I face every fear I've ever known because a map asked me to." The roots creaked apart, just wide enough for them to pass. Garen cleared his throat, stepping up. "I lost my title, my kingdom, and nearly my hope. I'd rather die helping you than live as a coward." Another path opened, buds blooming on the ancient branches. Pip fluttered forward, her voice surprisingly tender. "I once painted the dawn with my sisters in the dreaming glade. Now every dawn feels empty without them. But I've found a little light with these fools." Suddenly, the way ahead burst wide, velvet moss and pale flowers lighting their path as they hurried through. Lira felt the map pulse, its surface swirling to reveal the third and final trial, the Forgotten Gate. As they moved, Garen glanced sideways at Lira. "You've changed, you know, even since Thistlewood." She blinked, surprised. "Not sure I have a choice." Garen smiled, the first real one she'd seen from him. Not everyone would be brave enough to keep going. Their footsteps slowed as the air turned heavy. Distant chanting echoed behind them. The bone hunters were drawing near, relentless and growing bolder. Pip's wings drooped, but her eyes burned bright. "The Forgotten Gate's up ahead. No tricks, just what you carry inside." They emerged at the ruined arch of a gate, half buried in thorns and old magic, shimmering with tangled light. The map flickered in Lyra's hands, the pattern of their journey nearly complete, but the ground rumbled, a bone-chilling reminder that their pursuers had crossed into this most sacred of places. High stakes and heartbreak pressed in, but Lira felt something unshakable growing within her. Hope, shining bright in the gathering dark. The Forgotten Gate loomed before them, its fractured stones veined with living moss and pulsing with slumbering runes. Lira hesitated, feeling the press of generations behind those thorns, as if the land itself were holding its breath. Garen stepped forward, but an invisible barrier fizzled, forcing him back. Pip yelped, sparks flitting from her wings. The silver map warmed in Lyra's palm. Strange, rippling words formed on its surface. "Hearts unburdened open the way." "What does it mean?" Lira murmured, mindful that the bone hunter's chanting was clawing ever closer. Pip fluttered beside her, voice softer than she'd ever heard it. "Maybe it's not about being perfect. Maybe we have to let go of what weighs down." Garen stared at the ruined arch. "We've given up plenty already." Lyra's gaze drifted inward, thinking of her brother, the guilt that had been a silent shadow all her life. She clenched her fists. What if I forgive myself?" Tears stung her eyes, but she forced out the words. "I made mistakes, but I can't change the past. I did what I could. I forgive myself." Light shimmered through the thorns, peeling them back. Garen's turn. He exhaled shakily. "I forgive myself for failing my people. I can still choose who I am, starting now." A second pulse of light, and the barrier faded more. Pip hung her head, wings folding tight. "I forgive the world for taking the dreaming glade. I forgive myself for wanting something different." The final bramble withered, and the Forgotten Gate's arch burst with silver-white light, a path unfolding on the other side. Beyond lay an ancient forest of glassy trees and floating petals, a place untouched by centuries. Quick footsteps, and the rattle of steel echoed behind them. The bone hunters were near enough to see the glow. howling with fury at what they couldn't touch. Lira drew a shaky breath, then held out the silver map. "This is for all of us now. Alone we never would have made it. Together we can do anything." They crossed the arch in a rush of hope and nerves. As they did, each felt something unburden, old grief and doubt peeling away, leaving courage behind. On the other side, the map revealed a final destination, the Heartwood Vault, home to the Mirror of Verdania. But as they hurried onward, a shadow slipped through the closing thorns, a bone hunter cloaked in midnight, carrying an ancient grudge. The stakes had never been higher. The final leg of their quest and the last trial awaited. They entered the Heartwood, a place whispered about in legends, its trees tall as castles and their glassy trunks reflecting fragments of dreams. Light danced through branches, painting shifting maps across the forest floor. The air was thick with memory and longing. Lira felt the map thrum in her hands, its surface growing ever brighter. A path blazed before their feet, winding past pools in which their reflections flickered, never quite matching their true selves. Pip glanced nervously around, a rare trace of fear in her quick eyes. "The vault will test us all," she warned. "It shows you not monsters or riddles, but the truth you want most to avoid." Garen snorted, but his grip on his sword betrayed the tension in his voice. "I've faced enough regrets to last 10 lives. Lira smiled shakily. "We'll face them together." They reached the ancient Heartwood Vault, a hollowed trunk of the oldest tree, ringed by floating petals and dusted with silver light. The entrance gaped, dark and silent. They stepped inside, and the world changed. Inside, each companion found themselves standing alone. Lira saw herself, trembling and lost, refusing to open the silver map. Her doubts shouted, "You can't change anything. You never could." "But I did," she whispered, reaching for the vision. "I made it this far because I learned to trust, not just my maps, but people too." The image shimmered and broke away, replaced with the faint outline of the mirror, hidden, waiting. Garen faced the ghosts of his fallen knights. "You led us wrong," they accused. Shame burned through him, but he stood tall. "I can't take back the past, but I can fight for a better future, with honor." The vision faded, and a silvery stare appeared, beckoning him upward. Pip floated before her old friends, wild fae and radiant creatures who jeered, "You don't belong anywhere." She clenched her tiny fists. "Maybe not, but I belong with them now." The jeers vanished, light pooled at her feet. One by one, the group emerged into the innermost hollow, hearts pounding but stronger than before. Centered on a stone pedestal was the fabled Mirror of Verdania, its surface rippling like water, reflecting not their faces, but the lives they dared to dream of. Before they could grasp the moment, a bone hunter, cold-eyed, his cloak swirling with ancient magic, slipped inside, sword leveled at Lira. "Step aside. The mirror belongs to those strong enough to take it." Lira, Garen, and Pip faced him together, ready for the final battle, not just for the mirror, but for the right to shape their own stories. The bone hunter's icy stare scoured the hollow, landing on the shimmering mirror with greedy longing. The magical silver cloak writhed about his body as he pointed his sword at Lira. Shadows curled from his blade, warping the glimmering petals and casting twisted shapes across the heart of the tree. "Don't be fools," he snarled. "That mirror bends the foundations of fate. Give it to me and you walk away, alive and free." Garen planted his battered shield in front of Lira, voice low and steady. "How many times have you stolen what wasn't yours? That ends today." The bone hunter's gaze flicked to Pip, wings bristling with defiance. Even fae are wise enough to fear what this mirror can do. Pip hovered higher, chin raised. "Maybe, but I'm not wise, not always. Sometimes I just have to believe." The bone hunter lunged. Lira's heart hammered as Garen caught the strike with his shield. Sparks danced where steel met wood. Pip zipped low, darting between the bone hunter's legs, tangling him with glowing threads pulled from petals. Already the mirror rippled, showing possibilities. Lira as a queen, Garen with his kingdom restored, Pip dancing among fae sisters. But Lira looked the bone hunter in the eye, voice trembling but clear. "We're not here for power. We're here to give something back, to trust. That's the real magic." The bone hunter sneered. "Weakness. I have no use for it." He slashed at Pip. Garen deflected the blow, stumbling. The bone hunter raised his sword for the final strike. Pip, battered but grinning fiercely, threw herself between the bone hunter and Lira. Pick on someone your own size, shadow thief. Light erupted from her wings, momentarily blinding their foe. Lira seized the chance. She pressed her palm to the mirror's surface and spoke, voice shaking but true. I wish, not for myself, but that we all might choose our own destinies, free from old wounds and old darkness. The mirror blazed with silver fire. The bone hunter howled in fury as magic surged, his cloak unraveling under the light. Shadows poured from his eyes, anger, pain, every regret. It all spilled away and he fell to his knees, stripped of the ancient power that had twisted him. As the last echo faded, the mirror pulsed gently. Garen pulled Lira to her feet. Pip landed unsteadily on Lira's shoulder, battered but grinning. They looked around. The threat had been vanquished, but the mirror still shimmered, expectant. It's not over, Garen murmured. We still have to make a choice. Lira squared her shoulders, her friends beside her. The final riddle of the mirror awaited, a decision that would reach far beyond their own fates. In the soft, silver hush, the Heartwood Vault echoed with unspoken possibilities. The Mirror of Verdania shimmered before them, silent and waiting. Its surface no longer threatened, but invited, a sea of swirling futures, each glimmering with hope or heartbreak. Garen sheathed his sword. You did it, Lira. Lira shook her head. We did, but what now? The mirror's still listening. Pip brushed dusty petals from her hair and peered into the mirror. Careful, its wish is bigger than you think. The wrong dream set loose could change the whole world, maybe break it apart again. A pulse rippled from the mirror. Words formed across the glass like morning mist. What shape shall your hope take? Name the destiny you would give the world. They exchanged nervous glances. Garen stared into the viscous depths. I could wish my kingdom restored, but what if that starts another war? Pip's voice was gentle for once. I could wish to see my home again, but does peace mean clinging to the past? Lyra's hands shook as she addressed the mirror. I want people to have choices. Let fear and old wounds have less power. Let the future belong to anyone brave enough to reach for it. The mirror deepened, showing possibilities. A world healed, where twisted magic faded, a kingdom rebuilt not on sorrow but hope, fey glades opening to those as lost as Pip had been. We have to let go of the past, Lira said quietly. Even the good parts, even what we miss. If we don't, the world stays broken. She turned to her friends, Garen, who had found new honor through loss, and Pip, who had discovered belonging with unlikely allies instead of the dreaming glade. Garen nodded slowly. We stand together, not as what we were, but what we've become. Pip grabbed both their hands, eyes bright. Let's wish not for ourselves, but for a world that gives second chances, where no one is left wandering or chased by shadows. Their hands joined, they faced the mirror as one. The silver map between their palms burned like moonfire. Let there be healing and paths for every lost soul, Lira whispered, tears streaking her cheeks. Let Verdania become a land where anyone may begin again. The mirror shone, rising in pitch and light, pulling forth every secret wish, every ache, every hope. Their story braided together in the mirror's magic, a wish beyond power, a future ripe with possibility. But even as hope bloomed, another ripple ran through the vault. Outside, the bone hunters' chanting shifted, no longer a threat, but a confusion, as the world's old rules began to unravel. Above, thunder rumbled, the heartwood shivered, and through the branches dawn broke for the first time in centuries. Yet Lyra's voice trembled. We've started something we might not be able to stop. Are you ready for what comes next? Pip grinned, wild and brilliant. That's the thing about second chances. You can't ever know what's waiting. But I'd rather face it with friends. And as the mirror's light poured over them, their choice echoed into the changed and uncertain dawn, carrying the fate of Verdania with it. The world trembled as the mirror's wish unspooled, light cascading down the ancient roots and through the bones of Verdania herself. Silver brilliance swept through forest, mountain, and marsh, dissolving curses and planting seeds of new possibility. The Heartwood Vault shuddered, and for a breathless moment, Lira thought everything might fall apart. But the world coalesced, and what had seemed broken began to heal. The bone hunters, lost, shrouded in the fringes of nightmare, paused outside as shadows peeled away from their faces. Where anger had once reigned, memory seeped in. Some wept. A few knelt, their weapons falling as the urge to hunt and harm faded. No longer guardians of fear, they remembered names, families, laughter, and choices that might lead home. Inside, the vault's branches lifted, sending crystal petals drifting like snow. Lira clung to Garen and Pip as the mirror's power ebbed, leaving the three heartbound, changed forever. The map in Lira's palm turned crystal, then dissolved into starlight, the final token of their journey spent in kindness rather than conquest. Lira's gaze swept the dawn-bright world outside the vault. The rivers laughed anew, mountains whispered gentler, and the air shimmered fresh. The pain she'd clung to, the shame in Garen's eyes, Pim's longing for her lost home, all still lived in them, but no longer commanded their futures. Lira finally let the memory of her brother turn hopeful rather than haunted. Garen straightened, taller than any king. Pip finally let herself belong, wild, imperfect, and loved. The three walked from the vault into a world unsure of what it would become. No legends written yet, no destiny carved by force or fear. The people they met were wary, hopeful. For each soul who crossed their path, bone hunter, hidden fae, or trembling villager, something new was possible. Forgiveness, trust, beginnings. As they wandered the now brightened woods, their bond held steady. Garen smiled more than he scowled. Pip spun stories by the campfire instead of half-truths, and Lira mapped new roads not for pay, but for the sheer wonder of exploring what had never been dared. One evening, the trio stood on a grassy knoll, watching the world exhale beneath fresh stars. Garen raised a cup, clay, not gold, and toasted, "To second chances." Pip grinned, "To stories that never end." Lira wrapped her arms around both friends, "To the unknown." The moon's reflection shone in a distant river, glimmering not with prophecy but promise. In that moment, Lira understood. The greatest magic was not in changing destiny, but in choosing it, together, step by uncertain step. The mirror had rewritten Verdania, yes, but more importantly, they had rewritten themselves. And whatever worlds they wandered, hope would always lead them home. The end.